Hello and welcome to the Boostara Podcast. I am your host, James. On the Boostara Podcast, we speak to leaders in business and uncover the truths and insights from their amazing experiences. At Boostara, we help businesses boost growth, cut costs, and gain better business insights. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you, type the word growth into the comments below and I will be sure to reach out. Today, I'm very happy to say we are joined by Zoe Scorah, CEO of MyMaternityCoach. Hello and welcome, Zoe.
Hello, James. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I've got to ask, as I do everyone, where are you calling us from today?
So I'm South Gloucester, North
Oh,
Bristol, whichever one you want to say.
that's nice, beautiful. Yeah, making me want to thinking of summer holidays, going
Oh,
down that way.
we had like a minute of blue sky yesterday and I was outside staring.
Oh, no. Well, we're almost there. We're almost there. But I mean, for those of our listeners that are not familiar with yourself, Zoe, not familiar with My Maternity Coach, could you give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and the journey to where you are today, Zoe?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, James, Zoe Scorah, and I have two children. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. My kind of employment history, I suppose, has been varied, but predominantly the last 10 years I've worked in learning and development, working with corporate organizations to support learning and development and HR teams. In the last 4 years, I started My Maternity Coach, which is a coaching company that I've set up in order to support ladies transition back into the workplace. So I set this up because I had two very different transitions back into work. The company I worked for went really lovely, but there were certainly some things that could have been improved through that journey, and I felt like one-on-one support was one of them. So set up My Maternity Coach. What that means is I can help HR kind of people-focused organizations to support those individuals returning to work. That's pre-maternity, during maternity, and post as well. So it very much depends on how they want that support to sit. Predominantly, companies tend to use most of that support for the return. So they'll have a lot of one-on-one sessions when they get back from work after maternity, covering topics such as mum guilt, anxiety, boundary setting, confidence, all the fun stuff that us mums have to go through on that transition back into the workplace.
Amazing. And I think, genuinely really important work that I think that the really interesting thing of all the range of coaches that we've had come onto the show of late is everyone really focuses on usually it's a different niche, a different industry. But I think what you work on is something very specific but hugely important and impacts so many people. And I think an area, of course, I'm coming at it from a male perspective that the issues that you just described there, they've been around for such a long time and continue to be around, but shouldn't necessarily be there. And I know we spoke during our last call about my experience with my employer and the kind of benefits and the kind of uh, understanding and empathy that the leaders had with their vast majority female staff. And I guess a good question to start with, Zoe, is have things changed? Have trends in the ways that employers treat this transition period and understand this transition period for their female staff, has that changed, gotten better, or the worse? How have you seen those trends change over time?
I think it's a really interesting question because the transition back to work is seen as normal. It's seen as just this normal thing that mums have to do, and it's anything but normal. And frustrating for years is when doing research, when trying to look for statistics, look for kind of understanding around this topic, there's just not the research there. The kind of closest research we can look at is like the Parental Rights Survey, which was done in 2019, and the results were published in 2023. And some of the reports coming back from that were quite harrowing. So, for example, 7% of ladies coming back to work after maternity were offered a pay reduction on their return. So there's things like that which kind of research has been done on it. But apart from that, kind of where there's a few basic facts, and I think it demonstrates that actually the transition period between pre kind of parents and post parents is huge. everything in your life changes. And unfortunately, I feel like some workplaces just aren't set up to really give that support and to actually utilize the benefits, I suppose, because most mums come back and they have got their skill set's huge compared to before they went. They've had to juggle so much over that period of time. But their skill set when they come back just isn't being utilized in the right way, and they're not being treated in the way that they really want to be treated, for example.
Mm.
So, my number one thing I always say to any manager who says to me, like, how should I approach a return to work, is ask them, how do you want to return to work? Because companies have got policies in place, so they know the right and wrong thing, and they know they need to have a catch up at week 1 and catch up at week 6, whatever that looks like. But the emotional side of returning to work, of leaving their baby for the first time, of, I don't know, pumping at work, for example, all of these things that women have to go through, that support isn't there at the moment. Most of the organisations I work with have either never heard of maternity coaching, haven't got the support set up, or just haven't thought about it, to be honest. I think is
Okay.
predominantly what people say. They just haven't considered the fact that these women might need additional support on the return. I don't know if
Mm.
that answers your question.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And because we see this, we presume because we live in 2026 that everything should be extremely modern. Everyone should be thinking in a particular way, and that's mainstream for everyone and every company, but it isn't, right? I guess, what would you say to those kinds of HR managers or owners who might think, well, if they come back and they can't cope or they can't do things as they used to, then that's fine. Then we just find someone else. What's the impact of that, of taking that perspective, would you say?
It's scary that that's even a perspective to take, to be perfectly honest, because it's, going back to women in leadership. It's going back to really focusing on the fact that, equality, equal rights, all this kind of thing. Like, we need babies in society to continue society. The women are the ones that have to take the brunt of that pressure. Essentially, when it comes to having those conversations, I mean, the cost of recruitment alone, if we're thinking purely cost basis here, the cost of recruitment alone is, outweighs everything. And I think that if they just supply that support and offer the benefit, and then not, obviously maternity coaching is a great benefit to have, and it supports these individuals, but companies can do these things themselves if they really wanted to and they really cared. Even just setting up a mentor program so that there's somebody there for that individual to talk to. It doesn't have to cost the world. This
Yeah.
isn't about money making. This is about ensuring that these women have the correct support in that moment so that
Yeah.
they can thrive and continue their careers they worked really bloody hard for before going on maternity leave. And it's just such a shame that fortunately so many women aren't given that support, and therefore so many people leave the workforce, go back to different jobs, don't return to the same company. Obviously going back part-time, flexible working, all that kind of thing is great. But even that sometimes isn't enough to be able to support the emotional side of things that women go through without really thinking about it and taking a step back and recognizing what they as a human being have been through, and also what their bodies have been through.
Yeah.
It takes 18 months to 2 years for hormones to level out after having kids. And it's not a black and white, oh, here we go, 12 months after maternity, you're back at work. That's normal. Like, it's not normal. it's completely abnormal for people to go through it, but it's expected to just be an everyday task for women.
I think it's important that you said that because, if physically women change, after birth hormonally. I know from my own partner, having thyroid issues,
Mhm.
after birth, and that's a long-term thing. It's not just, oh, you've given birth, you've had these issues and then go back to normal. The often the way that you change is the way that you then are in the future, and not to mention emotionally and psychologically, there's a lot of changes that take place. And I think what you said there makes so much sense. Like, just putting in a mentor, it's a simple thing that you would do for, hopefully, companies do for their new staff members. You would give
Yeah.
a mentor, let them to understand the company, understand the ropes, that kind of thing. The same process should be when someone is returning to work, right? After this period of their life, to help them settle in and make that transition and feel, as you said previously, like not lost, like what's changed, what I'm just expected to pick up and carry on as normal, but I'm different and the company is different. The company has changed over time, right? So having someone to help you is just a very basic thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you kind of referenced it there, the kind of mental health impact of as
Yeah.
well of having that child and working and being the constant caregiver for that child for such a significant amount of time, particularly in the UK. The NHS recent findings have said that more than 1 in 10 women suffer from postnatal depression.
Yeah.
Like it's becoming the norm for that to kind of be a thing. And 15 to 20% of women suffer from anxiety and depression after through the year of having a child. And
Mm.
again, to go back to work whilst you're struggling with mental health, whilst you're struggling with the mum guilt, whilst you're struggling with, the mental load of life that you have to kind of go through. It's just being kind.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is a huge thing for me. It's just kindness. Why can't we just be kinder to the people who need the support in the moments that they need it?
I guess, is there a line between, maternity coaching, in what is coaching and what is or can be kind of like therapy? Is there a balance to kind of a line to find in that, like you don't cross certain aspects? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a therapist. That's not who I am. I am there to support and coach these ladies through those kind of emotional topics that I kind of mentioned earlier, and many more that they bring to the table. Essentially something, I'm a mental health first aider as well. So I'm aware of when I'm kind of having conversations with ladies when I feel that things may be crossing a line, I feel they may be struggling. I've absolutely got a lot of resources for me to be able to say, there's different companies you should be speaking to, reach out to these companies, get additional support, get additional help where you need it.
Mm.
What I do tends to be more a case of, a woman comes on, she's had no sleep, she's expected to do a presentation in half an hour, she's stressing, she can't remember anything because she's had no sleep, she's exhausted, and it's like, okay, let's just take a step back. We start every one of the sessions with a meditation, just a quick 5-10 minute meditation, because people just don't get a chance to breathe nowadays. Like the workday is so busy, but taking 10 minutes to just close your eyes and breathe can just center you and
Mm.
just give you that opportunity to really focus on, okay, I've got this, I'm okay, I'm grounded, I'm here, I'm now. I'm not at 3 a.m. struggling to sleep. I am now today when I'm going to do this work.
Mm.
The next thing we do is think about celebrations. So, you can rewire the brain to focus on the positives, and it takes time. But I always encourage my ladies to focus on the celebrations throughout each week. So they'll always start by saying, right, I'm expecting these celebrations. What are we celebrating? And that can be as little as my baby wasn't sick with me today, or it could be, I've absolutely nailed a proposal and I'm so looking forward to getting it sent out, or I've hit my sales target, or I'm wearing clean clothes, I've drunk a hot cup of coffee. Like it doesn't have to be these huge momentous things, but just focusing on the fact that positives do happen
Mm.
even when you're in the depths of things. And I quite often refer to having kids and childhood and stuff as being in the trenches a little bit,
Yeah.
because you're there, you're trying desperately to kind of crack on. And as you slowly start that transition, you can see your head peeking out, you're getting there, you're like, okay, I'm kind of climbing, but I'm falling back down. And it's just a case of continuously keep going, keep climbing up that ladder, because you will absolutely get there and you will find the kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And it's a moment in time, as somebody that I used to work with always said to me, it's a moment in time that we just have to really kind of grab hold of these people and support them in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, yeah, that getting to that light is made even faster and easier when you've got support around you as well, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's exactly like we want to get people there. We should want to help people get to that point, and that's what all working environments should be. Have that kind of caring aspect to them. I guess Zoe, with companies that perhaps you approach or approach you in engaging in your coaching services, what
Mhm.
what are some sort of common misconceptions that that companies, hiring managers, CEOs have about what it would be like to get your services? Are there any kind of misconceptions that you commonly um, pass?
Yeah, I think that. one of the key misconceptions is that I will just be their manager kind of thing. And they will quite often say to me, oh, so this is their target, this is their thing, this is the thing. And I'm like, this isn't about that. This isn't, I'm not becoming their manager or, like you said earlier, their therapist kind of thing. This is just about giving them the opportunity to breathe and coming to the table with different topics of conversation. So I mentioned a few of them earlier around confidence, boundary setting, self-worth is a big one. And I think that what people tend to forget is that quite often people don't need huge medical interventions when they're struggling. They just need to talk and they just need to breathe and they just need to take a step back from the rat race that we're all in and think, okay, like, let me talk this out. Let me see genuinely how I feel. So I think that when it comes to misconceptions, it's around supporting people in the moment. It's supporting people where they're at when they need it. And I think that, like I said, the misconception tends to be that this is a magical pill and this is going to make everything better. And it absolutely will help people in that moment. But sometimes people do need more help. And, if people have got, if they're struggling with mental health, depression, anxiety, all that kind of thing, like it isn't a once and done. It is something that needs to be a continuous support system.
Mm,
It's not just one person coming in, having a conversation with an individual, everything's okay.
mm,
My message to, these HR L&D departments is that, we all need to be surrounding these people. We all need to be checking in with them regularly. And I'll do everything I can to have those conversations with them. But actually, it's a group effort. And we all need to work together with it.
yeah, and this should be part of a wider positive culture within the company. I imagine organizations will take this approach, will bring in a maternity coach such as yourself because they already care and they already know that the long-term benefits and just it's the right thing to do,
Mm,
essentially, right? For their staff. But if they're building a culture that is going to take the organization far into the future, then all details you need to think about. All details need to be considered, and all all demographics of your employees, of your staff.
mm.
I'm curious, when it comes to AI. How have you seen the impact of AI play out in your space?
Oh, that's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think we all know that ChatGPT exists and, I've used it myself, absolutely uploading pictures of rashes on kids and going, what is this? All that kind of thing. I still get the guilt. Well, when I was employed, I would get the guilt of if I was poorly, do I go to work? Do I phone in sick? Do I not phone in sick? And I still would phone my parents and go, this is how I feel. Should I work? Should I not? And I found myself having this conversation with ChatGPT. Am I well enough to work? Right. So, I know that people are using it for lots and lots of different reasons. Things that slightly concern me is I've had conversations with a couple of mums who have been struggling mentally and then have kind of turned to ChatGPT as a bit of a therapist. That
Mm,
concerns me because obviously that's not, in my opinion, the forum for those kind of conversations. Absolutely, you know, putting those emotions in and then hoping the answer will be you need to seek medical help
yeah,
or, but whether or not that system is reliable, I doubt it in that situation. And I think that my biggest concern is that, you know, loneliness is huge. We know that there is a big loneliness epidemic at the moment anyway, but for women and mums who are on maternity leave and returning back and maybe working from home, turning to, I say ChatGPT because I don't really use many other kind of AIs at the moment, but like quite often they can turn to those forums to ask things rather than pick up the phone and have a conversation with a colleague or,
yeah.
voice note a friend because they're like, oh, it's just quicker, it's easier. I'll just get the answers from here. So that's something that I have seen. Like I said, I've had a couple of my clients say to me, I'm struggling and like ChatGPT said this to me and that to me. And there is a place for it, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's not. Like I said, I use it on a daily basis, but I think that when it comes to mental health, it's just so important to speak to human beings and speak to people in those environments.
It's the safeguarding, right? It's there aren't the safeguards inbuilt in these LLMs to redirect people, and we've already heard a lot of those kinds of stories, right? Um, and when the people that you're working with, they are in a sensitive, vulnerable state after giving birth, right?
Mhm.
So that's where again it leads back to the mentor, the coach, the human element surrounds this person with as many people as possible to help and support them, rather than if they don't have that. That's, I suppose, when they go the avenue of technology. Then what's the closest, easiest, quickest route to get the answers that I need? Where you want that first step, the quickest, easiest route, to be someone close by, right? And if that's not in place, then that's, I guess, when people kind of go towards technology, because, and it's the double-edged sword, isn't it? We use AI, and we're encouraging people to use AI, businesses to use AI, because of the convenience, because of the speed. It can speed up operations within the business in a way that we couldn't achieve that level of speed previously. So speed is often best, but we also recognize that the human elements is still needed in a lot of situations, but that speed still is so intriguing for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But in all, it doesn't translate to all situations, all circumstances, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many circumstances where AI can be incredibly beneficial for new mums and mums returning to work. And I was talking to a client yesterday actually around how, they can use it for their meal planning, for example. Oh, I've not considered that. And it's like, yeah, like just type in what you normally cook, what you normally have, what kind of meals your kids like, what your budget is, where you shop, and it'll give you everything you need to do right. And that sort of thing could, like you said, speed, it can save time, it can help them save money, like all of these things. There's so many benefits for it, but I just think sometimes, when it comes to mental health and well-being, you do have to take a bit of a step back and say, nothing, in my professional opinion, is ever going to replace human interaction and getting that support, the right support when you need it.
Is there a use case within maternity coaching that AI can maybe assist, can help in a way in the practice? Or would you say, the basis of, all of the work, that all of the contact that you should have with women returning from work is going to be in person? It has to be in person, and there's no really use case for AI to kind of contribute or help develop a higher level of service or coaching, as it were.
That's a tricky one. I think that ultimately, I don't think AI will ever replace coaching in that kind of immediate, whether it's in personal virtual support.
Mm.
However, you can certainly get some really great tips and things from using AI. So, if somebody is struggling with confidence on return, like give me some top tips. I'm just about to return to work after maternity leave. Like, those sort of can be quick wins and can really help people in the moment. And I think
Yeah.
that, in those scenarios, then it's absolutely fine. Like, you feel like you need that support. It's a bit like, back in the day we used to say if you're going into a presentation, do the Superman pose before you go in to make yourself feel more confident. It's a
Yeah.
bit like that. If you quick chat GPT a couple of tips, you walk in feeling really great, that's
Yeah.
fine. Absolutely. Why not? But I think that at the end of the day, we just have to keep reminding ourselves that human interaction is key here. And with especially vulnerable women who, have just, well, their lives have been turned upside down by having children, it's incredibly important to give them that human support.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, within putting your business hat on, as a business, no, business maternity coach in a business sense, I, I
Mhm.
I ask everyone this question that comes on. So, is if AI could, or advanced technology could take one part of your job, um, and it's just, you're done, finished. I don't have to do that part of my job anymore. What do you think would have the biggest impact on yourself and the business?
um, to be honest, I think it's probably just as simple as getting the word out, helping people to realize that this is a service that's an option and an offering that can really genuinely make an impact in the business. That's something that I'm working with at the moment, desperately trying to just get people to understand. And, you know,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the responses I'm getting is, I didn't know this existed. I didn't realize this was a thing. And so just helping people to realize that this is a thing would be, you know, if I could just type into AI, can you just let everyone know that my maternity coach exists? Because it would be really beneficial to a lot of companies and a lot of women. That would probably be the biggest thing for me.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just spread the word, right? Spread the word. Far,
Absolutely.
yeah, far and quickly. Zoe, going forward, you know, the next, as we get into spring, we're joking about the weather, right? Next sort of 3 to 6 months, you know, what's in store for yourself and my maternity coach?
So at the moment, I am working with a number of wellbeing providers to become part of that support package. Again, focusing on getting the word out there and really making sure that lots of people understand that this is an option to really help the women. A big thing for me is culture. I'm really working towards creating a big culture shift in the business world. You know, I've worked in corporate for, well, I say 10 years in learning and development and 5 years prior to that, various different things. And I just think that we have to change the way that we look at these women returning back to work. We
Yeah.
have to approach it with kindness and, you know, yes, money, business, etc. is all important, but what at the end of the day, if we want businesses to succeed, we have to approach it with kindness towards every person within that organization and specifically ladies through this huge transitional period. So I would
Right.
love to have an impact in the culture of kind of corporate environments for women returning to work.
Yeah, that's amazing and so meaningful and relevant for, you know, you just think half the population. You know,
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
I used the word niche earlier on, right? Everyone's got their niche sector, but yeah, actually, you know, what you are working on is something it's not niche. It's affecting 1 in 2 people.
Yeah,
Right. So
absolutely.
that's is something that everybody needs to be aware of. They need to know the importance. And as a business person, if you know 1 in 2 of your employees are female, then it's relevant to you as well, right?
Absolutely.
And the impact it starts with culture. If they understand that, I think we spoke about it earlier as well. If a company really buys into building a good, strong culture, a people first culture within the business, and they understand, which not all business leaders do, but if they understand the strengths and benefits that investing in a strong culture can bring to your company and letting it survive 10, 20, 30 years down the line,
Mhm.
so this is just one aspect of that. And there's a very important aspect of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, you know, at the end of the day, we know that there's a huge trend of mental health and well-being and making sure we're looking after our individual psychological safety, buzzwords at the moment, all that kind of stuff. And I just think this needs to be part of that conversation. You
Yeah.
know, menopause as well is such a huge topic at the moment and it affects so many people that I think it just goes hand in hand. All of these things happen to women, and it's
Yeah.
just so important that they're supported. And like you're right, the culture element is just key to that.
Well, and and I would add that, you know, the difference there with the mental health, especially, is that, you know, pinpointing a time period, like, it is difficult. They are important areas, but with childbirth, with maternity, well, you know, you exactly know when someone is returning back to work. So if you know that, then you
Mm,
can put the very simple strategies in place to help women returning to work. Right, that's that simple. Others may be more complex, right? The kinds of support we put in place, but for this, it seems to me it's a no brainer, right? You
mhm,
work with Zoe, you work with my maternity coach. You look at your business, you look at what areas you need to improve on, and what the strategies are for returning mothers, and you put
mm,
those in place,
yeah,
and it's just done. And then you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And I think once people start realizing that this is such a simple thing to implement and it really helps encourage, you know, we know that a lot of women, when they're starting into the workforce nowadays, are looking at the benefits of that company before they say yes or no to a job invitation. So, you know, having something like maternity coaching as part of their kind of benefit package, then that's going to hugely benefit them and expand the pool of individuals who would be more happy to work for that company as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brilliant having you on, Zoe. And I guess, you know, for kind of review the conversation, I would say, the standouts for me were kind of just reviewed it really there. But, if you're going to do one thing, one thing only in your company, it's just bring in a mentor, bring in a mentor
Yeah.
for returning mothers.
Mhm.
And that's a good start. You can go further, absolutely, but understand the change that your returning mothers have gone through,
Mhm.
both physically and psychologically, and just be there, bring that support in place. Um,
Absolutely.
I should ask Zoe, for any businesses listening in, if they want to get in touch with you, Zoe, what's the best contact details to get you on?
So the email address is zoe@mymaternitycoach.co.uk. So please do feel free to send me an email. Zoe Scorah on LinkedIn. I know my name says sponsor. That's my maiden name from a number of years ago now. But I do think as well, again, you said about that one thing. I have created a manager's guide, which can help support managers through that transition. So please reach out if anybody would like me to share that with you. I'm more than happy to share that and hopefully reach many people to be able to at least help one or two individuals. I think that's the most important thing to me.
Amazing. That's an easy way to start and get to understand this, right? And I will put those contact details below for anyone and everyone to get in reach in contact with you, Zoe. But again, massive thank you for joining us today, Zoe.
Great. It was lovely to see you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Brilliant, brilliant. And listeners, thank you very much for listening. Please do like and share this video so we can get this message out to as many people as possible. Thank you.